Hi everyone, welcome back to KG Graves. In July 2022, we went to St Margaret's churchyard in Rottingdean. We went to visit the grave of John who was the producer on many of the Doctor Who episodes. More information about John coming up shortly, but as usual, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I thought I'd share some of my model Daleks with you on this one. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching.
So you produced Doctor Who throughout the 80s, and you've seen the new Doctor Who. What do you think of the new Doctor Who?
I thought it was terrific. I'm madly envious about the amount of money that was spent, but I really thought it was splendid. Wonderful sets, wonderful costumes, wonderful special effects.
Were you jealous?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was madly jealous that they had so much money. But I thought Paul McGann was superb. Possibly a little too long, getting over his regeneration crisis. But aside from that, I thought the whole thing was splendid.
How do you see the series going from your point of view? Because you've done so much of it.
Well, of course, I'm not involved with it anymore, but I would have thought, judging by the standard of that special, I would have thought it had a very long and healthy future.
John Nathan Turner was born John Turner on the 12th of August 1947 in Birmingham, West Midlands, England. He was an English television producer. He adopted the double-barrel stage name John Nathan Turner to distinguish himself from the British actor John Turner. He was educated at King Edward VI School at Aston in Birmingham, where he showed an early interest in acting and theatre. His earliest television acting work was as an extra in TV productions for ITV, including Crossroads and The Flying Swan. On leaving school, he initially worked as an actor and assistant stage manager at Birmingham's Alexandra Theatre. John was later taken on by the BBC as a television floor assistant, working on every type of show, including The Pallisers, How Green Was My Valley, Angels, and All Creatures Great and Small. He also spent 2 years working on The Morecambe and Wise Show, prior to the act's move to ITV in 1978. Having joined the BBC as a floor assistant in the 1960s, he first worked on Doctor Who in 1969 as part of the floor crew at a time when the series was recorded in Studio D at the BBC's Lime Grove Studios. The first serial he worked on was the Patrick Troughton story, The Space Pirates, in 1969. John then worked as an assistant floor manager on 2 serials in the John Pertwee era of Doctor Who, The Ambassadors of Death 1970 and Colony in Space 1971. He later worked on Doctor Who in the Tom Baker era as production unit manager under producer Graham Williams from 1977 to 1979. When Williams decided to leave the show after 3 seasons, John accepted the post of producer, which would also become the last to feature Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor. Due to John's relatively young age at 33 and lack of previous experience as a producer, the BBC brought back former Doctor Who producer Barry Letts back to the series to act as executive producer for his first season. His experience of working with Graham Williams helped form his views on the future direction of the series. John instituted many changes, replacing the arrangement of the theme music, which had run throughout the 1970s, with the more contemporary electronic arrangement by Peter Howell, and introducing revamped opening titles and a new closing credit sequence. John also dispensed with the services of longtime composer Dudley Simpson, who had provided the incidental music for the majority of the Doctor Who serials of the 1970s and all of the Williams-era stories. With Simpson departed, the Doctor Who incidental music would be provided by many different electronic composers. John's first major story influence was in bringing back the Master. He cast Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor, having previously worked with him on All Creatures Great and Small. After John brought the Master back for 3 consecutive stories, The Keeper of Traken 1981, Logopolis 1981 and Castrovalva 1982, now played on a regular basis by Anthony Ainley, he believed that the show could benefit from bringing back more popular characters and monsters from its past. Earthshock 1982 enjoyed considerable publicity from featuring the return of the Cybermen after an absence of 7 years. Next saw the return of Omega, the Mara, and Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. The Daleks and Davros also returned in Resurrection of the Daleks 1984. During his time producing Doctor Who, John wrote 2 books about the programme: Doctor Who, The TARDIS Inside Out 1985 and Doctor Who, The Companions 1986. John came under immense criticism from all areas. He was accused of employing too many back references, thereby limiting the scriptwriters and confusing the casual viewer, to employing excessive violence in Colin Baker's 1985 season, and in the casting of guest stars best known for the roles in light entertainment rather than drama. These included Rodney Bewes, Beryl Reid, Richard Bryars, Ken Dodd, and Hale and Pace. Patrick Mulcairn of the Radio Times argued that John-Nathan-Turner should be applauded for enticing big-name guest stars, and his stunt casting of actors in wildly inappropriate roles often pays off. He was criticised for the casting of companions purely as gimmicks. The character Tegan Javanka, an Australian air stewardess played by Janet Fielding, was introduced solely to curry favours with viewers in Australia, whilst Peter Davison reported that the American character Perry Brown, played by Nicola Bryant, was introduced only in an attempt to endear the show to American viewers and was one of his reasons for leaving the show. In 1985, BBC One controller Michael Grade enforced an 18-month hiatus on Doctor Who, publicly criticising the series as tired, violent and unimaginative. In 1986, after the series had returned, Grade insisted that John replace the actor he had cast as the Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, as a condition of it continuing. According to an interview with Peter Davison in 2018, Baker was the victim because the power structure in the BBC had changed and they didn't want John-Nathan-Turner around. John was also criticised by his former executive Barry Letts and 3 of the actors who played the Doctor, Peter Davison, Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, about their attire. Others criticised his casting of these Doctors too, stating that the magic wasn't quite there and the series became a bit pantomime. Composer and audio engineer Mark Ayres made an impassioned defence of John on the DVD commentary for The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, stating, "John gets a lot of criticism as a producer, but he was absolutely fantastic in giving people a chance, new writers, new composers, new actresses. And a lot of what John didn't work, let's be honest, but when it does, I think you get something really quite special." After the series ended in 1989, and until shortly before his death, John continued to be involved in Doctor Who related events and remained a familiar face at conventions for many years afterwards. In the early 1990s, while working for BBC Video, he produced and wrote several Doctor Who videotape documentary releases based on many of the early Doctors. Also in the early 1990s, he produced the earliest Doctor Who commercial releases on audio cassette for the BBC radio collection, creating narrated adaptations of television serials for which only the soundtrack remained. John co-presented the British Satellite Broadcasting 31 Who programmes during their 1990 Doctor Who weekend and co-wrote the 1993 charity special Dimensions in Time for the show's 30th anniversary. John made his final contribution to Doctor Who in March 2002, 6 weeks before his death, when he gave his final interview on a location visit to what was used during the resurrection of the Daleks recordings in 1983. This last interview first appeared on the November 2002 original DVD release. In his personal life, John, a gay man, was survived by his long-term partner Gary Downey, who was also a BBC employee, ultimately becoming a production manager. They met in 1972 and worked together on All Creatures Great and Small. Downey, who was born Roderick Pincus in South Africa in 1940, died on the 19th of January 2006. He spoke of his life with John in an interview with Doctor Who magazine. Richard Marson's book, JNT, The Life and Scandalous Times of John Nathan Turner, 2013, alleges inappropriate sexual behaviour on the part of John and Downey by stating that the two men were preying on male teenage fans during the 1980s, including making unwanted advances to himself. The age of consent for gay men at the time was 21 in the UK compared to 16 for heterosexual relationships. A long-term drinker and smoker, John was in poor health in the last years of his life. He contracted an infection and died in hospital on the 1st of May 2002, aged 54. Having been a lifelong fan of Doctor Who since the start in 1963, I think some of the best series were produced by John Nathan Turner, and I don't think he deserved all of the criticism he got. Let me know in the comments below if you are a Doctor Who fan and what you thought of the shows that John produced. Let's see where his grave is located. So, there you have it, the grave of John Nathan Turner, English television producer. As usual, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, leave me a comment below, and thank you to all of you who have already subscribed. See you on the next one.